Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining me today. I'm Lorna Schumann with the Illinois State Museum. Today, we're going to look at a dress, and this dress has a story. Do any of your clothes have stories? Tell about an event, a person, a place? Well, this one does. And to help us today, we're going to talk with Erica Holst, Curator of History. Hi, Erica.
Hi, Lorna.
So, can you tell us a little bit about Lucy's dress?
Yes, so this dress here is a reproduction of a dress worn in the late 1850s by a woman named Lucy McWorter, who lived in New Philadelphia. And unfortunately, Lucy's original dress does not survive. It's been lost to history. But her photo does survive, and we here at the museum were able to commission a reproduction of the dress that she was wearing. And it was made by a very talented local seamstress named Mary Helen Yoakum, and we are deeply grateful for her skill in reconstructing this important garment in history. So Lucy's dress tells us about her and her life and her evolution from an enslaved woman to a prosperous middle-class landowning woman at the end of her life. So Lucy, we know very little about her early life. She was born into slavery in 1771. She was probably born in North Carolina or Virginia. We know that by 1799, she was enslaved on a farm in Pulaski County, Kentucky. And we also know that this farm was probably a small hemp or tobacco farm, which was the typical kind of agriculture in Kentucky at that time. In 1799, Lucy married a man named George McWorter, and he was a man who was enslaved on a neighboring farm. Lucy and George knew that being enslaved on different farms meant that they were constantly in the threat of being separated from each other and having their family broken up. By 1810, George started hiring out his time with the goal towards eventually purchasing freedom for himself and his family. By 1817, George had enough money to purchase one individual's freedom, and rather than choosing himself, he chose to purchase the freedom of his wife, Lucy. And this was because any children that were born to them in the future would be born free, because a child's legal status followed its mother's. So in doing so, he ensured the future not only of Lucy, but also their future children. He kept working, and a couple years later, he was able to purchase his own freedom. And so in 1831, the McWorter family moved from Kentucky to Illinois. They made a 500-mile journey. They settled in Pike County, Illinois, purchased land, and eventually founded the town of New Philadelphia, which was a thriving, integrated community in the Civil War. By the time he died in 1854, Frank had purchased freedom for the remaining children in his family and had gone back to Kentucky more than a dozen times to retrieve his family members that were still in bondage. Lucy survived Frank by 16 years. During the last years of her life, she lived in New Philadelphia and was likely cared for by her children and grandchildren. She was a prosperous widow thanks to the inheritance of her husband's thriving estate. So as a young enslaved woman, Lucy would have had an allotment of cloth, and probably living on a small farm, she would have been expected to sew her own clothing. She wouldn't have had a lot of say in the type of cloth that she was given, and probably not a whole lot in the type of clothes that she was able to create. As a young enslaved woman, Lucy's creativity in dress would have come out in the ways that she combined the fabrics that she had available to her, the ways that she matched colors, matched prints. If she was able to acquire a different garment, sometimes from the mistress of the house, she might have incorporated that into her ensemble. And as a young enslaved woman, she might also have favored the bright colors and patterns that were traditionally favored by African women. As a middle-class woman in her later life, This dress represents how Lucy chose to present herself to the world, and she is very much in keeping with the standards of what was considered a proper woman at the time. This dress is of a muted color, and that was what society expected of older women at the time. They felt that bright colors were for young people, and older married women and widows should kind of dress in more somber colors. The fan pleating here shows a sort of looseness around Lucy's waist, and this suggests that by this point in her life she may have been going without a corset. And that was also kind of something that society sort of permitted and even expected for older women. Younger women were known to wear corsets as a means of supporting their garments. By the time women were older, if they had put on weight or just kind of didn't want the discomfort anymore, society kind of said it was okay to do away with the corset. She also had a kerchief on in her photograph, as well as a day cap, and these are also tokens of sort of this middle class older woman respectability. And so this photo that Lucy was taken in and our ability to recreate this dress really shows, gives us an insight into Lucy's journey from an enslaved woman to a middle class widow in her later years, and how she wanted to present herself to the world.
Erica, thank you so much. I appreciate you telling us a little bit about Lucy's dress. It's really interesting that there's this town in Illinois that she came to called New Philadelphia. So can you tell us a little bit about the town today and what's there?
Yeah, thank you, Lorna. That's a great question. So the town is no longer, people don't live there anymore, and sadly none of the original buildings are left in that area, but the town site is a National Historic Landmark, and it is available for people to visit, and there's interpretive signage. So it's a great place for a road trip. It's in Pike County, Illinois, and it's a wonderful opportunity to go and literally walk in the footsteps of Frank and Lucy McWorter.
Great. Erica, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you so much. Take care.